Last time on our awesome Australian food adventure, we hunted possums by night.
We kill it.
And ate them by day.
What? That's not at all awful, is it? No.
Dude, that's amazing.
Now we're leaving the island of Tasmania and heading to the mainland.
We have come here to Melbourne.
This is not Melbourne.
It's not Melbourne at all.
No.
I was told Melbourne, and then we drove, and then we didn't stop driving for about...
Just a scant 3-hour drive north of Melbourne, you'll find this place, a farm where thousands of this country's largest birds are born and bred. This is the emu. Native to Australia, they can grow up to 6 feet tall and weigh well over 100 pounds.
Am I gonna get away with saying emu?
No.
How do you say it?
Emu.
Where's the ew coming from?
You guys don't even have these creatures in your country.
No.
So, I decide.
Oh, dang it.
Today, Andrew and I are on a mission to learn how this farm works.
Their ears are wild. It's just big holes in the back of their head.
But even more, I want to know how this bird tastes.
Is it beefy?
It's better than beef.
Oh, I cannot wait to try this out.
It all starts here,
This right here?
with this freakishly large organ.
Any guesses?
Kettlebell.
This is the emu's gizzard.
Wow. I've seen gizzards before.
Like a chicken gizzard.
They don't look like this.
This is gigantic. To find out more about the gizzard and what is inside of here, I'm bringing over Jeff. Jeff is the one running stuff here. He's the emu master.
Expert.
What's inside of here?
Lots of rocks and lots of grass and grain.
Can we cut it open and see what's
Do that.
inside?
The gizzard is an organ found in birds that's used for digestion. It's a specialized stomach made of thick muscular walls
Ooh, oh, wow.
used for grinding up food.
That's the part we eat.
When you have to chew but have no teeth,
In here,
well, the gizzard is nature's solution.
Oh, he's cut. Oh. So that was like the inner sac. It's actual giant rocks inside.
The stones and pebbles that grind the food are known as gastroliths.
When I was younger, we had a hobby farm, and the chickens, you had to buy like little pieces of gravel for them so they can eat the gravel and it helps them digest. This is not gravel. This is landscaping material. Can I? Why do I want to smell this, Andrew? It's a bit bitter. So when you cook this up, is it similar to a chicken gizzard in texture?
honestly, I've never eaten a chicken gizzard.
Oh, really?
We're about to chow down on a giant fried gizzard for breakfast, but first it must be boiled for 2 hours, then sliced into thinner pieces. Since Jeff is new to gizzard cooking, farm manager Steve is stepping in to help. In a pan, he adds oil, first frying garlic, then the gizzard. Add some bell pepper and a pinch of salt.
Cheers. Oh, yeah. Good.
Top job, Steve.
Well done.
No worries.
It has some of that chicken gizzard flavor to it. There's almost like a little minerality to it, but it's on a giant scale. It's huge. It's so meaty. Sometimes the chicken gizzards can be a little bit gristly because they're smaller, and this is so much more meaty and just really dense. I love it.
Dude, that's really good. Chewy, but in a good way.
Yeah, the best kind. I'm gonna stop the interview and just eat for a little bit.
We started farming about 50 years ago in Australia. This is a family farm. I was born here. I'm actually 5th generation in the area.
And is it true that this is the biggest emu farm in the world?
Certainly in Australia, but I don't know of anything in the world bigger than this.
That's crazy. How many emu do you have here?
About 7,000 on the farm at present.
Well, 6,999. When it comes to emus are a big part of Australia's history. Do you know how far they go back?
Well, believed to be about 40,000 years. Indigenous Aboriginals in Australia. That's been one of their major food sources.
The Aboriginal people were the native inhabitants of this land thousands of years ago. For them, emus were an essential food source, providing meat, eggs, and fat. Their feathers were used for tools and clothing, and their bones and tendons could be used to create weapons.
The indigenous folks used to hunt emu and cook it underground, very similar to what we saw with the kangaroo in Western Australia. It's fascinating that the preparation of this animal goes back forever.
Once Europeans arrived here, they brought over their own beef, sheep, pigs, rabbits, grains, wheat, and barley. Suddenly, emu steak was so last century. Some still eat emu today, but if this farm existed only to sell emu meat, it simply would not survive. You'll find out why soon.
We are on a mission to learn more about your farm. The gizzard here is just the beginning, but we have a lot more to try from here. I believe we're gonna start with the preparation of a neck soup.
I believe so, yes.
You know, it's like with a cow, you could make oxtail soup, but with an emu, the neck is its oxtail. Did I make that up?
No.
You don't have to go along with it just because I'm the host of the show.
Today, Andrew and I will be trying 3 different emu cuts prepared in 3 vastly different ways. Right now, we're heading to the processing facility to collect the meat ourselves. Though it turns out butchering an emu is not as straightforward as I thought.
That is the pelvis. Now I'm going to come down the edge of the bone.
Kris is the farm abattoir manager.
The rump,
Before she can display the emu's 7 major cuts,
that is the oyster.
she's got some boning to do.
And now I'm going to take off the drum. There's 2 more drum cuts and the shank, which I'm going to take off in one piece.
Andrew,
Yes.
you're wearing a hairnet for your face.
Yeah, kind of strict here, you know?
So right now we're in the boning room. Could you break this down and show us what each piece is?
We have the drum cuts, which is basically like the drumstick on a chicken. This is your oyster fillet.
Does that mean like it's part of the hip?
Yes, this is what you're having today, the fan fillet.
It looks incredibly lean.
This is the flat fillet, which you are also having. The 2 cuts that we have left are the round. The last one is the rump.
Here's what I find so fascinating. It's broken down into all these unique cuts that you've given names to. And I can't help to think that 100 or 1,000 years ago, when indigenous folks were roaming the land, they probably looked at the bird completely differently. I highly doubt indigenous folks were like, well, this is an oyster cut, this over here for jerky.
I think back in Western Australia when they first decided to look at emu farming, they spent a lot of time developing all of this. They actually registered the cuts, so they're the same as what you would call a rump steak in beef.
It's a way to make it more familiar. It's like, you know beef rump? This is emu rump.
There's a ton of meat here. I mean, this is just 1/2 the animal, right? How much meat comes off one emu?
Around 11, 12 kilos of actual meat.
Wow.
That said, what does emu taste like? Is it beefy?
It's better than beef.
Oh, I cannot wait to try this out.
Today we'll try the fan fillet, the flat fillet, and the part that gets tossed on most birds eaten today. I'm talking about the neck.
I've had a lot of good sheep neck, especially if you go in the Middle East or Iran. It's delicious, but it's different species there. They're thick and they're really meaty. This is a bit more lean, kind of scrawny, almost a pencil neck, one could say. But I do still see some meat in there, and of course there's gonna be tendons and connective tissue between all the bones, and so if you braise it or if you boil it long enough, that should create a delicious stock and some tender meat.
Yes, sir.
At least we're gonna find out.
We will.
With the bird's exaggerated features, this giant emu neck will be perfect for a stew. So I'm hauling it to the home of Jeff and his wife Jane. She'll know just what to do with it.
The emu we saw in the boning room was a little bit more bony, I could say, but I didn't realize how much meat there really could be around the bones. So that looks awesome.
Our emu neck stew begins by caramelizing onions, then browning the emu neck pieces. Add some chicken stock, potatoes, carrots, pumpkin, and peppers before closing the lid.
We have our emu neck that's gonna braise for a few hours, and then we're gonna come back and try it out. In the meantime, we're gonna do a tour of this farm. I want to get into the life cycle. My biggest question is, if you go from a sheep farm to an emu farm, do you start with the chick or with the egg?
We started with 2-year-old birds and then bred on from there.
How many birds did you start with?
I would have only had 10 or a dozen.
So these are all cousins.
No, I brought in.
Let's start from the beginning. These large green emu eggs take 7 weeks to hatch. Then the hatchlings require 4 more weeks to look like this.
This pen here, they're about 6 months old. We normally don't process the birds till they're about 2.5 years old.
Oh, really?
wow.
2.5?
These guys have got a long way to go.
After 9 months, the emus head out here, where they're introduced to a vast landscape to roam free.
I swear, these birds look like dinosaurs. Their ears are wild. It's just big holes in the back of their head. It's like the first edition of ears. First of all, this sound, it feels like a deep roaring rumble through this big audience of emus.
So these are all 18 months old, coming into their first year of breeding, and that's their mating call.
That is a terrifying mating call. If I heard that, I would pee my pants a little bit. I would be like, hi.
These emus need 30 months to reach market weight. From here, most will head to the slaughterhouse, while a fortunate few will be moved to the breeding pens.
I'm really curious about, oh God, bit me. You're making it hard. I'm gonna actually choke you out. I'm curious about emu meat as an industry. Is emu meat something you can just find at the supermarket?
Most of the meat is sold in restaurants. It's very limited. We're only producing, say, 50 tonne of emu meat in Australia a year, but we export the oil. The oil is the whole industry.
This is emu oil. You can actually harvest more oil than meat from these fatty birds.
What country are you exporting to the most?
But we send a lot to America, actually.
You guys,
I've never heard of this.
you're to blame.
Can we try some oil?
We certainly can.
All right, let's do it.
Emu oil contains high amounts of vitamin K2,
You can go first.
and it's rich in omega 3, 6, 7, and 9.
You need to chase it with a Diet
No,
Coke?
no, that's quite pleasant.
It also has anti-inflammatory properties.
Ah.
It's hypoallergenic, antibacterial, and a bunch of other stuff.
Could you pour me? Here, I got a spoon here.
Those who purchase it take it as a daily supplement.
Oh, rich, oily, but a very neutral flavor. I thought it would be funky or gamey or weird in some way, but no, it just tastes pretty neutral.
Huh, that is the oddest flavor. You're right, it's hard to describe because it's really smooth.
But you don't really take a spoon of that each day, do you?
Capsules.
Capsules, that's the way to go. So I understand most of the money in this industry is in the oil, but we're interested in the meat.
That's right.
Stop it.
Oh, dude, let's get out of here.
Yeah, and mostly we should leave.
While the emu neck cooks, there are still 2 more emu dishes to make. First, stir-fried emu flat fillet. Jeff makes a marinade from red wine, sesame oil, garlic, ginger paste, sliced onions, and honey. Slice the meat thin, then slather it and let it soak up those flavors overnight. Once ready, stir-fry on high heat for just a few minutes.
You mentioned that restaurants are frequently buying this meat off you. What kind of dishes do they do there, do you know?
I don't know, we've never been to a restaurant to find out, but ultimately buy the fan fillet and this flat fillet.
So I've never had emu meat. I have had ostrich before. I've had it twice. One time we smoked a whole ostrich and one time we cooked it underground Mayan style in Mexico. Both times it was really beefy, rich, and delicious. The emu, I have no idea about, but I can see it has that same kind of beefy looking texture.
Right, it's not what you expect from a bird, that's for sure.
Lean but soft. I would say the texture does feel really beefy. What was notably different than typical beef is there was no sinew, there was no like intersection of muscle. It was just this big piece of muscle.
It's so crazy that it's such a lean bird despite the amount of like fat that's on the body.
Jane, how many times a week are you eating emu?
I'd say at least 3 or 4.
So you're not sick of it?
No, because you can cook it so many different ways.
Yeah, this is delicious. Earlier when it was being boned, Kris put some aside and she said that's for trim, which is being ground up and given to who?
Oh, that goes into pies and pasties. That's the first thing that's always sold.
Are they advertising like an emu pie, emu meat?
Oh yeah, certainly.
Oh wow.
It's starting to.
Yeah, it's starting to. This was our first taste of the meat, but we have a couple more dishes, including the emu neck soup.
Wow.
Dish number 2, oven roasted fan fillet. Simple and straightforward. Jeff rubs the meat with salt, pepper, and herbs, then tosses it into the oven to roast.
This looks amazing. It's really remarkable. I mean, I think if you brought most people here, sat them down and said, look at what this is, they'd be like, oh, beef, I guess.
Right, I mean, maybe not that.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. This is emu neck soup. It looks super fascinating. It is kind of like an oxtail, but even maybe a little bit more bony. We're gonna get into that last.
Oh.
Here, yes, very thinly sliced fan fillet.
Super lean, it looks amazing.
I think this time we can really taste the meat itself a bit more, whereas the stir fry was a little bit more sweet, had more of those Asian flavors. It's a rich flavor, but it doesn't have that rich fattiness that beef would have. So essentially, I just think it's like very lean beef.
You're right, you can tell it's not beef, but it's that same kind of, it's a red meat.
What do you think?
When people ask me that same question, I say it's similar to beef.
Add a little barbecue sauce on the side, very delicious.
Good, huh?
I like how the wine cuts through the, I just like it has alcohol in it. I think we should talk about this right here.
Oh my God.
It's wild because you can see like the vertebrae as they move upward, and I want to see if I can peel off some of this meat with my teeth. Cheers.
Oh, that falls off.
Oh, wow.
Oh yeah.
Really tender.
It's just all about the ratio of fat, and there's tendon and collagen all in there kind of mixed in and broken down.
There's a lot of meat on this neck. You guys don't usually do this, so what do you typically use the neck for?
In pet food.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I'm blown away. That's really good.
And I think it's a good way to eat it too on the bone.
It's like more rewarding to kind of peel it off yourself. Do you think the meat will ever become viable as something people could just pick up in supermarkets? Do you think it'll ever get to that level?
Most of the meat that we're producing now is going to the restaurants already. All last year's meat has been sold, basically.
Would you welcome a big onslaught of new farmers taking on emu?
Yeah, there's room.
You think there's room in the market still?
Yep.
Yeah, it is kind of almost a novelty, you know, that it isn't a staple in supermarkets. It really would be a good thing to see if it became more commonplace.
What would it take for that to happen? It sounds like the demand is there.
No, it's going very well.
So if the demand is there, why aren't more people getting into this?
A long-term thing to get into. By the time you get an egg, it's 3 years before you get a profit. Most people can't sustain the losses and expenses to get up and running. It's taken me 30 years to get to the stage I'm at.
For you, what is your goal? What is the next step?
I want to get the product out there because I think it's a wonderful product. It has great health benefits for people. I just want to get it out there. Eventually retiring.
Jeff? Jane, this has been an incredible experience. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for coming.
Elevate your style with our brand new clothing collection. Rock out in our threads, feel the thrill of culinary adventures, and celebrate with us in style. Head on over to BEFRS.shop today.
We are right now in the boning room?
Yes.
That's what I call that's not what I call my bedroom. Sorry, I need to start this over. Do you have HR here? Because I want to report myself. These are the adult emus, is that correct?
That's correct. These guys are about 18 months old.
Oh, that's better. You have a way with them. You don't strangle them every time? They literally don't care.
No, they don't.
I hate you! It's just like, what's up? Sort of like working with you instead of Calvin. You don't try to, perform or do a great job or anything. You're very understated.
Right.
Boom, guys, that is the end of this entire Australia series. Hey, I want to say thanks to our producers for making an impossible, brutal, inhumane schedule. Thanks, guys.
That was wild, man. Some really, really cool stuff.
And I want to say a huge thank you to my man, Andrew here. Andrew?
Thank you. That was fun. I mean, I'm tired as fuck, but that was fun.
He has his own YouTube channel focusing on culture, travel, and food. So please go check out Andrew's channel right now and see what shenanigans he's up to, huh? Otherwise, until next time, a peace.